Can you guys hear me? I don't know if the mic is on, but everybody can hear me? If you can't hear me, raise your hand. So, good morning. Welcome to the 2023 deliberative session of the Newmarket School District. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next order of business, hopefully folks had a chance to pick up the moderator's rules of procedure. They haven't changed pretty much since I've been here. And I'd like to entertain a motion for the meeting to adopt the rules of procedure for purposes of the meeting. Do I hear a motion to that effect? Tony, thank you. And sir, do you mind seconding? Okay. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you very much. And just to remind folks that the way the deliberative session works is that the articles as presented will go on the warrant as written unless they are changed by the meeting. So we don't have to have motions and seconds as to each particular article. Before we start going through the articles, the first thing we're going to do is have Mr. Allen give a presentation on an overview of the warrant articles in the school district's budget and other items for this year. So, Mr. Allen.
Just want me to run through the whole thing?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead? Alan, go ahead and go through your whole presentation. And then if you have questions, just make a note, and we can talk about them after you start with this presentation.
Want to just do one article at a time?
However you think is best.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead. Article 1. Just real quick. Okay. All right. So Article 1 is to elect all the officers of the district. Clearly, that includes a moderator, district clerk, district treasurer, 1 3-year term for board members, and a 1-year term for a board member. Filing deadline for that was yesterday, so those will be available very shortly. In fact, if I open my cell phone, I can read the wonderful email that Terry sent me. So yes, so for the 3-year board term, we have Dan Smith. For the 1-year board term, we have Gary Swanson. For treasurer, we have Annette Brousseau, moderator Chris Hawkins, and clerk Terry Littlefield. So they are all running unopposed. So that is Article 1. Article 2. Article 2 is the operating budget. Clearly you have a copy of the warrant in front of you, so you can certainly read the exact language of it. Bear with me. When we began the budget process, we had 4 goals that we established to develop the budget. One goal was to keep the overall increase under 4%. The second goal was to make sure that we continue to provide support for all the programs that were ongoing. We weren't introducing any new programs, so we wanted to make sure that those that we had already identified and were working on were supported. We also, at the direction of the board, I was asked to really take a look at hiring and retaining good people in the district. As many of you realized, there was quite a large exodus of district leadership, and we've also been very challenged to get and hire many people in the various, particularly the non-union and the hourly wage people. So we have really taken a deep look at how we can better compensate people to make sure we can meet those, and so there's money in the budget to accommodate that, with the exception of the warrant article on the para-education. The number 3.9% is circled, so up front, the goal of getting under 4%, we have a 3.9% total increase in our budget for this upcoming year. If you go to the next slide. If you look, I'm sure it's not lost on anybody that inflation is a factor in the world. When we were building the budget, these are the statistics that were in October, but they haven't unfortunately changed a whole heck of a lot in the last few months. But as you can see, overall U.S. inflation at that time was 7.7. It's now running 6.5 to 7, but it's still quite high. Energy costs are still running up over 17% increase. Food costs, if you've tried to buy eggs lately, you realize what's happening there. Cost of shelter, housing, rentals are up. And overall, fuel oil is just off the charts up, over 68% over the year. In that context, you can see we are coming in at 3.9%. So in my mind, with inflation, running where it is, a 3.9% increase is really trying to hold the line and not really increase things. And so I think we've been very successful at doing that. Next slide. To kind of give you an idea of where the total operating budget of $26,652,112 is going. This chart shows you kind of the breakdown. The blue, 46% is salaries. 21%, the orange, is benefits to all of our staff. 25% is operations. And debt service, 8% of our budget is debt service. I would note that the commitment the town has made to our facilities with the bond that was passed, I think it's an amazing commitment, but in a small town, that does have a disproportionate impact on the budget. So it is 8% this year. One of the advantages, if you will, to inflation is over time it becomes less and less a proportion of your budget. So certainly over the course of time, the bond payment remains of roughly $2 million throughout, and we'll be paying on it through 2046. But obviously, it becomes less and less a proportion of the budget, and it becomes less of an impact. But in the early years of it, it is something to note. That's a great investment by the community, but it is a challenge to manage the budget around. Next slide. One of the things people always ask me is, okay, can you try to quantify what's different in this budget? This slide is one that's trying to give you a sense of how things have changed. If you look at the extreme right-hand column that's called level, basically that shows you if we had done nothing to reduce costs, that's where we would be. So basically if we just simply said everything that's in the 22-23 budget, we're bringing it forward, just pay for it under current dollars, we would have seen a $608,000 increase in salaries. We would have seen a $167,000 increase in benefits and a $310,000 increase in operating costs for a total increase of $1,086,000. We didn't do that. So we're in the left-hand column, which is where we actually are, which is in this current budget, you see an increase of $319,980 in salaries, $120,000 in benefits, and operating costs going up $540,000. The middle column gives you an indication of what's different, really. So in salaries, what we have done is we have reduced staffing. We've actually reduced total staffing across the district by 7.35 positions. I want to emphasize, nobody's lost a job. We're taking advantage of attrition in vacant positions and saying, okay, again, doing that assessment, what do we need, and making sure we budget for what we need. So that those positions reflect the $288,000 reduction. Clearly, when you reduce positions, benefits do go down, but it's important to note that overall insurance rates are up. So even though we reduced, to some extent, the actual cost of our insurance packages as compared to this year is going up regardless. So based on those position reductions, we reduced benefits by $47,000, and then operating costs went up, but that's largely a function of we've moved to a contracted services model in our custodial and our food service programs, and it's largely just taking on that cost. So in the end, that number, $980,203, that reflects 3.9%. That is the increase in this year's budget. Next slide. Really, the story of this budget is revenues. I hope people understand that The school district doesn't have sources of revenue that we actually can control. We get money from, obviously, local taxpayers, thank you very much. We also get state aid, and then we also get federal aid. The local component is fairly stable. The federal component is quite stable. Unfortunately, our state revenues are not, and they do tend to go up and down. This slide, if you look at the far right-hand side, it shows you what we're estimating our revenues to be. So it's just over 4.2 million, down from 4.8 million in total 2 years ago. But that's not the whole story. Next slide, please. This slide here really gives you an indication that when we get state aid, it comes from two places. You have what's called adequacy aid, and then you have the statewide property tax. So when the state dollars come to us, to the state, it's like a total figure. So if you look at it purely by total dollars, the reduction isn't that much. This slide shows you the property tax is the orange, so that's the bad part. That's actual dollars that are still collected locally, okay? The state, it's called the statewide property tax, but it's still money Newmarket taxpayers are paying, and it's going right back to the school. You can see from between last year and this year, the amount the state is expecting from local of the statewide property tax goes up by $500,000, okay? And then at the bottom, the blue, that's the good stuff. That's the money that comes to us from revenues that are not locally generated. So the more of the blue, the better it is. And that's gone down by $700,000. So when you look at the story of the 3.9% increase in our budget, the real story is going to be, in the end, what does that mean to the taxpayers? And this does mean, next slide here, that the estimated tax impact, and I want to emphasize, this is an estimate, and actually you can see in last year's column, the blue is the estimate, the orange is the reality. Last year we estimated 2176, and it came in at 1978. This year we're estimating 2285. I would call 2285 the worst case scenario. That assumes that we completely spend every penny in our budget, return nothing in the year-end fund balance, and that we don't get any unexpected revenues. We don't intend to do either of those things. We anticipate we will get revenues in other ways than we have anticipated, and we also expect that we will manage our fund balance so there will be some level of a fund balance being returned. But that being said, that's where you get on the warrant, $3.07 increase. Should this be defeated, obviously there's the default budget. Just real quick, what is the default budget? The default budget would be basically $25,943,895. That basically is the same as last year with just increases in costs that we have to incur. Probably the biggest one is that last year a teacher contract was approved, and those costs were not in the operating budget for the 22-23 year. So this year they have to be in the operating budget. I'm not happy about it either.
We're all concerned about the default budget, absolutely.
So the cost of the teacher contract has to be rolled in, so that's where that's in there. So basically, the difference between if our budget is defeated, it would be a reduction of $708,000 total. So with that, Mr. Moderator, do you want me to take questions on Article 2 as we go?
Yes.
Okay. Do people have any questions on Article 2? Okay. It's a good crowd. You're probably just thinking it's cold in here, right? Okay, Article 3. So Article 3 is the parent educators and tutor contract with the NSSA. So basically, the proposal here, it's a 3-year contract. You will notice, very similar to actually, you'll talk about the police contract coming up in the town. You'll see that it's a 3-year contract with year 1 being a larger increase than in years 2 and 3. I think it's important to note that we have, so in year 1, what would be in this budget, what's being appropriated this year will be $284,630. It's important to note that we have been struggling all year to fill vacancies in this unit, and we have had probably 5 or 6 people actually come to the table ready to take a job, and when we tell them what we pay, they say, oh, I'll go to Exeter, or I'll go to Portsmouth, or I'll go. And so it was clear right from the get-go that we needed to take a look at our pay scale. So basically what we've done, next slide please, is this, that basically depending on where you are on the scale, in the year 1 it's a 12 to 15% increase. What we did was we front-loaded, so the years 1, 2, 3, 4 are the higher end of that increase. The higher on the scale, it's the 12%. But the bottom line was we were trying to make sure that the rate we were paying was competitive with our surrounding districts. I would tell you, even with this increase, we're still just a little bit behind, Exeter and a few others, but we are definitely more in the ballpark, and so I think we're in a much more competitive position. Years 2 and 3, which as you know, you can see in the previous slide, are less in terms of an increase. Year 2 is a 4% increase, and year 3 is a 3% increase. There are a couple of other things that were introduced in this contract that I think are really needed. One is a differential for intensive needs. One of the things you realize when you have students that have more complicated needs, there's more training, more skill, more patience, a lot of things to work in those environments. And previously, Newmarket was not paying anybody more for taking on those roles. And so naturally, it was challenging to get people in those roles. Most school districts do make a differential. So if you're taking on a student that has higher needs, that requires more training, more skill, you get paid more. So basically, in this contract, you could get up to $2 an hour more if you are working with a student with intensive needs. We also did some work on improving the insurance. When this contract was first approved in 2019, the first time that the NSSA did collective bargaining, the tutor group was brought into the contract, and they didn't make any changes to the benefit packages that were offered to the two groups. So it was clearly two different classes, if you will, of benefit. And what we did was we equalized the driver plan so that, at least for the individual employee, it isn't 100% equal yet. The contract does include a study group, because the teacher contract will eventually be coming up to take a look at our benefit package. I'll talk about that in a later warrant article, but costs and benefits clearly are challenging, and wanting to make sure we give our employees the best benefits we can for the money we have is an enticement to get and keep people. So anyway, so it includes that. And then the other one is there was no longevity in our previous contract. And so basically, no matter how, we have a number of long-term, dedicated, hardworking paraeducators that were not being recognized for that longevity. And this contract includes a longevity bonus. So after you've been with the district for 5 or more years, you get an extra 50 cents an hour. 10 or more years, you get 75 cents an hour. 15 or more years, $1. And beyond 20, you're getting $1.25 an hour more. In my mind, it's good money to keep good people working for us. So that is Article 3. I'm happy to take any questions on that one. Thank you to the members of the NSSA for being here. I appreciate it.
Todd.
Oh, we have a question.
Just a comment.
Would you mind coming up to the microphone, just so, stating your name? Did you say he's a resident of Portsmouth?
Yes, he says an educator in
Educator in
Portsmouth, so
Portsmouth,
I'm assuming he's an Exeter.
Thank you very much.
You can just let us have your name and your address.
Yeah, sorry. Adam Bastille, 17 Drake Street, Newmarket. So I'm a Portsmouth educator. In our most recent contract, we just, because of inflation, just had our first year bump was 7%. And then it goes down. It's kind of similar to this, 3% and then 2%. And I just want to express how important it is as an educator. With inflation, obviously we all know it's ridiculous to afford groceries, gas, everything as it is right now. And it was really important that as an educator, they got that passed for us because it just shows that we're valued in the community. So I'm looking at your slides and I'm hearing you, and I greatly appreciate that that's what you're trying to do. Just
Thank you.
I just want you to check in.
Yes, sorry, we're a little late with the kids, but
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I do want to take a moment to just acknowledge that how quickly the leadership of the union, as well as the school board and myself, were able to find common ground on this because we all recognized that there were challenges in this previous contract. And I think that there's a lot of, on both sides, we're pleased with the result of the negotiation. Any other questions on Article 3? Okay, we'll go on to Article 4. Article 4 is a very simple one. It's just simply in the event that the contract does not pass, it allows us to have a special meeting. Because obviously we need to have a contract, but in the event it doesn't pass, this would allow us to hold that special meeting. So, and only to deal with cost items. Okay. Article 5. Article 5 is a warrant to basically take $162,110 that is basically interest earned on the bond and put it in the capital reserve fund for school improvement. You will note on the warrant there was some they both were recommended by the board as well as by the budget committee. The issue that sort of caused people angst on that was at that time we did not have a long-range capital improvement plan. I am pleased to tell you that we are very close to fully fleshing that out. In fact, we finalized some work on it yesterday. But I think basically what this warrant article allows us to do is to put the money into the capital reserve fund and then to be able to use it for improvement of facilities. If you go to the next slide real quick, Gary, that gives you an idea of the fund balances we have. The fund that we're talking about putting it in is the bottom one, which is the School Improvement Capital Reserve Fund. Currently has $530,835 in it. Very shortly, $353,649 of that is going to be pulled out for windows and finishing the windows and electrical upgrades at the elementary school. So it'll draw that down to just under $180,000. The other major fund is the School Repair and Maintenance Fund, and you can see that one's at $639,000. We're drawing $150,000 out of that to this summer to renovate the playground at the elementary school. Very excited about that. But then putting the $162 back in the school improvement plan would bring that back up to about $340,000 with the idea that as we're mapping things out, we have multiple HVAC systems that are on their last leg, and as you can feel the cool in here. I'm sure there's some heating issues here too. But at the schools, similar things are happening. And so one of those HVAC systems will run us $100,000, and there's dozens of them across the district. So mapping out what that will look like. So this money would be well spent. So if you wouldn't mind going back to the previous article. So basically, it would going down to the bullet points here. One thing to keep in mind that when we finish the courtyard at the high school, which is going to happen. Which is another perfectly valid thing to do, but to put it in the school improvement fund gives us the opportunity to keep it and then use it for future needs that we know are coming and to guard against more significant increases later on. So with that being said, I'm happy to take any questions on Article 5. My message is comprehensive. I'm just doing it. Okay, all right. You have to understand, I come from the Oyster River District where things are more complicated. So, all right. Article 6. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Thank you. It's good to hear. So Article 6 actually is a pretty simple thing. It's sort of like if you have an old checking account that you forgot about and there's like $1.68 in it, you have to basically close out the account and do something with it. Basically what we're talking about in Article 6 is taking the balances, and I showed it to you just a moment ago in the slide with the fund balances. We have two funds that were created before the school project went on. So we have an expansion of school trust fund, which is at $149.07. We're not planning to expand anytime in the next 25 years, I'm sure, so I think we're good there. And then school construction and renovation, again, just completed a massive project, so there's $100 there. So basically, this would take those funds, $249.39, put it in the general fund, and we'll just go wild with it. All right, questions about Article 6? Okay, Article 7. So Article 7 is, one of the things that came up this year, in fact, in the slide I was showing you the cost increase in benefits. Basically what happened to us this year is something that used to happen more often, but it seems like we're headed down a road where it might start happening again. Insurance benefit costs can go up pretty dramatically. I mean, I can remember years, 6 or 8 years ago, where we would get like a 17% increase in 1 year. I mean, that has happened in many people's memories who work in local government. This year, what happens is every year the insurance company gives us an estimate that we use for budgeting. And this year the estimate is 8.5 to 10%. So we use that number to build our budget. We budgeted on the high end of it, but we were anticipating worst case scenario, a 10% increase. Well, when it came back, 11.9% increase was what happened. The difference was about $47,000. So all of a sudden, we built this budget on one assumption, and then suddenly we have to come up with $47,000 that we thought we had covered for. So by basically Article 7 asked the voters to create an expendable trust fund for insurance benefits that would allow us, when a spike occurs that is unpredicted, it would allow us to use this to not have a spike in cost to the taxpayer. So this year we rolled it into the operating budget, which is part of the increase that you're seeing. In a future year, I mean, I'm not trying to curse us or anything, but if we did get a 15 or 17% increase like has happened in the last decade, this would give us that flexibility to not have to say, okay, it's going to be entirely borne by the taxpayer. So this would create that fund. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions about Article 7. Okay. Mr. Moderator, where are you? Oh, question, yes. Yes, the warrant lists the tax impact. For Article 2, if that is approved as is, it's $3.07 on the 1,000 increase. Again, as I showed you in that chart, the 2285 rate is our worst case scenario. But yeah, $3.07. If the NSSA contract passes, the difference is 28 cents on the 1,000. None of the others have any impact on taxes. Thank you for welcoming a guy from Lee to your meeting.
Oh, you're from Lee.
Sorry,
Now
you
you're,
know that.
now you're blowing it. Okay, so Article 1 is the selection of school district officers. This is really dictated by statute. There's not real action for us to take on this. So I'm going to move on to Article 2, which I will read as follows. Shall the Newmarket School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $26,652,112. Should this article be defeated, the The default budget shall be $25,943,895, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Newmarket School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority ballot required, unanimously recommended by the school board and the budget committee. Note, warrant article 2, the operating budget, does not include appropriations in any other warrant article. The total operating budget will be offset by estimated federal grant revenues of $700,000 and an estimated $421,062 in local, state, and federal child nutrition revenue, leaving a net budget of $25,531,051. The amount of $1,121,062 will not be raised by taxes. If passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of $3.07 over the previous year's school tax rate of $19.78, which will result in a new estimated tax rate of $22.85. If defeated, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of $2.36 over the previous year's school tax rate of $19.78, which will result in a new estimated tax rate of $22.14. Any motions with respect to Article 1? Or Article 2, excuse me. Article 2. Seeing none, Article 2 will proceed to the ballot as presented. Article 3. Shall the district vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Newmarket School Board and the Newmarket Support Staff Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year. For the year 2023-2024, estimated increase of $284,630. For the year 2024 to 2025, $86,205. And for the year 2025 to 2026, $74,280. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $284,630 for the upcoming fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreements over those that will be paid at current staffing levels. This is unanimously recommended by both the school board and the budget committee, and the estimated tax impact of this article is 28 cents, majority vote required. Any motions with respect to warrant article number 3? Seeing none, warrant article 3 will proceed to the ballot as presented. Article 4. Shall the district, if article 3 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address article 3 cost items only, majority vote required. Any motions with respect to article 4? Seeing none, Article 4 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article 5. Shall the district vote to raise and appropriate $162,110 to be added to the School Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, previously established, and authorize the use of this amount represents part of the interest earned on temporary investment of bond proceeds that will be transferred to the general fund on June 30th, 2023. No amount to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. This was recommended by the school board 3-2 and recommended by the budget committee 6-3. The estimated tax impact of this article is $0. Majority vote required. Any motions with respect to Article 5? Seeing none, Article 5 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article 6. Shall the district vote to discontinue the following capital reserve / trust funds? Said funds and accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred to the school districts, to the school's general fund, Majority vote required. Expansion of school trust fund, balance estimate $149.07. And school construction and renovation fund, balance estimate $100.32. Unanimously recommended by the school board and the budget committee. Any motions with respect to Article 6? Seeing none, Article 6 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article 7, shall the district vote to establish an insurance and benefits expendable trust fund under the provisions of RSA 198:20-C to meet the cost of unanticipated insurance and employee benefits expenses, and to raise and appropriate $50,000 to be placed in this fund. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2023 fund balance, available to transfer on July 1st, 2023. Further, to name the Newmarket School Board as agents to expend from said fund. No amount to be raised from taxation, majority vote required, unanimously recommended by the school board and the budget committee. Any motions with respect to Article 7? Seeing none, Article 7 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article 8, is there any further business to come before the meeting at this time? All those opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. If you're staying for the town meeting, please check in again.